Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and we are here with more The Diary of Anne Frank. Yeah, I didn't get to do this in normal time like I would, and so I apologize for that. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this now after they've had the issue with the burglary and everything in the last episode. So let's jump into this. Monday, April the 14th, 1944. Dear Kitty, everyone here is still very tense. Pym has nearly reached the boiling point. Mrs. Von Don is lying in bed with a cold, grumbling. Mr. Von Don is growing pale without his cigarettes. Dussel, who's having to give up many of his comforts, is carping at everyone, etc., etc. We seem to have run out of luck lately. The toilet's leaking and the faucet's stuck. Thanks to our many connections, we'll soon be able to get these repaired. I'm occasionally sentimental, as you know, but from time to time I have reason to be. When Peter and I are sitting close together on a hard wooden crate among the junk and dust, our arms around each other's shoulders, Peter toying with a lock of my hair, and the birds outside are trilling their songs, when the trees are in bud, when the sun beckons and the sky is so blue. Oh, that's when I wish for so much. All I see around me are dissatisfied and grumpy faces. All I hear are sighs and stifled complaints. You think our lives have taken a sudden turn for the worse. Honestly, things are only as bad as you make them. Here in the annex, no one even bothers to set a good example. We even have to figure out how to get the better of our own moods. Every day you hear, if only it were all over. Work, love, courage, and hope. Make me good and help me cope. I really believe, Kit, that I'm a little nutty today, and I don't know why. My writing's all mixed up. I'm jumping from one thing to another, and sometimes I seriously doubt whether anyone will ever be interested in this drivel. They'll probably call it The Musings of an Ugly Duckling. My diary certainly won't be much use to Mr. Bokenstein or Mr. Gerbrandi. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Saturday, April the 15th, 1944. Dearest Kitty, there's just one bad thing after another. When will it all end? You can sure say that again. Guess that's happened now? Peter forgot to unbolt the front door. As a result, Mr. Kugler and the warehouse employees couldn't get in. He went to Kegg's, smashed in our office kitchen window, and got in that way. The windows in the annex were open, and the Keg people saw that too. What must they be thinking? And Van Modern, Mr. Kugler's furious. We accuse him of not doing anything to reinforce the doors, and then we do a stupid thing like this. Peter's extremely upset. At the table, Mother said she felt more sorry for Peter than for anyone else, and she nearly began to cry. We were equally to blame, since we usually ask him every day if he's unbolted the door, and so does Mr. Von Don. Maybe I can go comfort him later on. I want to help him so much. Here are the latest news bulletins about life in the secret annex over the last few weeks. A week ago, on Saturday, Boshi suddenly got sick. He sat quite still and started drooling. Miep immediately picked him up, rolled him in a towel, tucked him in her shopping bag, and brought him to the dog and cat clinic. Bochi had some kind of intestinal problem, so the vet gave him medicine. Peter gave it to him a few times, but Bochi soon made himself scarce. I'll bet he was out courting his sweetheart. But now his nose is swollen and his meows whenever you pick him, Andy meows whenever you pick him up. He was probably trying to steal food and somebody smacked him. Maushi lost her voice for a few days. Just when we decided she had to be taken to the vet too, she started getting better. We now leave the attic window open a crack every night. Peter and I often sit up there in the evening. Thanks to the rubber cement and oil paint, our toilet could quickly be repaired. The broken faucet has been replaced. Luckily, Mr. Kleiman is feeling better. He's going to see a specialist soon. We can only hope he won't need an operation. This month, we received 8 ration books. Unfortunately, for the next 2 weeks, beans must have been substituted for oatmeal or groats. Our latest delicacy is piccalilli. If you're out of luck, all you get is a jar full of cucumber and mustard sauce. Vegetables are hard to come by. There's only lettuce, and more lettuce. Our meals consist entirely of potatoes and imitation gravy. The Russians are in possession of more than half the Crimea. The British aren't advancing beyond Cassino. We'll have to count on the Western Wall. There have been a lot of unbelievably heavy air raids. The registry of births, deaths, and marriages in The Hague was bombed. All Dutch people will be issued new ration registration cards. Enough for today. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Sunday, April 16th, 1944. My dearest Kitty, remember yesterday's date, since it was a red letter day for me. Isn't it an important day for every girl when she gets her first kiss? Well then, it's no less important to me. The time Brom kissed me on my right cheek or Mr. Woodstra on my right hand doesn't count. How did I suddenly come by this kiss? I'll tell you. Last night at 8, I was sitting with Peter on the divan, and it wasn't long before he put an arm around me. Since it was Saturday, he wasn't wearing his overalls. Why don't we move over a little, I said, so I won't keep bumping my head against the cupboard. We moved so far over, he was practically in the corner. I slipped my arm under his and across his back, and he put his arm around my shoulder, so that I was nearly engulfed by him. We've sat like this on other occasions, but never so close as we were last night. He held me firmly against him, while my left side against his chest. My heart had already begun to beat faster. But there was more to come. He wasn't satisfied until my head lay on his shoulder, with his on top of mine. I sat up soon after about 5 minutes, but before long he took my head in his hands and put it back next to his. Oh, it was so wonderful. I could hardly talk. My pleasure was too intense. He caressed my cheek and arm a bit clumsily and played with my hair. Most of the time our heads were touching. I can't tell you, Kitty, the feeling that ran through me. I was too happy for words, and I think he was too. At 9:30 we stood up. Peter put on his tennis shoes so he wouldn't make much noise on his nightly round of the building, and I was standing next to him. How I suddenly made the right movement I don't know, but before he went downstairs he gave me a kiss. Through my hair, half on my left cheek and half on my ear. I tore downstairs without looking back, and I longed so much for today. Sunday morning, just before 11. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Monday, April the 17th, 1944. Dearest Kitty, do you think Father and Mother would approve of a girl my age sitting on a divan and kissing a 17-and-a-half-year-old boy? I doubt they would, but I have to trust my own judgment in this matter. It's so peaceful and safe lying in his arms and dreaming. It's so thrilling to feel his cheek against mine. It's so wonderful to know there's someone waiting for me. But, and there is a but, will Peter want to leave it at that? I haven't forgotten his promise, but he is a boy. I know I'm starting at a very young age, not even 15, and already so independent. That's a little hard for other people to understand. I'm pretty sure Margot would never kiss a boy unless there was some talk of an engagement or marriage. Neither Peter nor I had such plans. I'm also sure that Mother never touched a man before she met Father. What would my girlfriends or Jacques say if they knew I'd lain in Peter's arms with my heart against his chest, my head on his shoulder, and his head and face against mine? Oh, and how terribly shocking. But seriously, I don't think it's all that shocking. We're cooped up here, cut off from the world, anxious and fearful, especially lately. Why should we stay apart when we love each other? Why shouldn't we kiss each other in times like these? Why should we wait until we've reached a suitable age? Why should we ask anybody's permission? I've decided to look out for my own interests. He never want to hurt me or make me unhappy. Why shouldn't I do what my heart tells me and makes both of us happy? Yet I have a feeling, Kitty, that you can sense my doubt. It must be my honesty rising in revolt against all this sneaking around. Do you think it's my duty to tell Father what I'm up to? Do you think our secret should be shared with a third person? Much of the beauty would be lost, but would it make me feel better inside? I'll bring it up with him. Oh yes, I still have so much I want to discuss with him, since I don't see a point of just cuddling. Sharing our thoughts with each other requires a great deal of trust, but we'll both be stronger because of it. Yours, Anne M. Frank. P.S. We were up at 6 yesterday morning because the whole family heard the sounds of a break-in again. It must have been one of our neighbors who was the victim this time. When we checked at 7 o'clock, our doors were still shut tight. Thank goodness. Tuesday, April the 18th, 1944. Dearest Kitty, everything's fine here. Last night, the carpenter came again and put some sheets of iron over the door panels. Father just got through saying he definitely expects large-scale operations in Russia and Italy, as well as in the West. Before May the 20th, the longer the war lasts, the harder it is to imagine being liberated from this place. Yesterday, Peter and I finally got around to having the talk we've been postponing for the last 10 days. I told him all about girls, without hesitating to discuss the most intimate matters. I found it rather amusing that he thought the opening in a woman's body was simply left out of illustrations. He couldn't imagine that it was actually located between a woman's legs. The evening ended with a mutual kiss near the mouth. It's really a lovely feeling. I might take my favorite quotes notebook up with me sometime so Peter and I can go into things more deeply. I don't think lying in each other's arms day in and day out is very satisfying, and I hope he feels the same. After our mild winter, we have been having a beautiful spring. April is glorious. Not too hot and not too cold, with occasional light showers. Our chestnut tree is in leaf, and here and there you can already see a few small blossoms. Beth presented us Saturday with 4 bouquets of flowers, 3 bouquets of daffodils, and 1 bouquet of great hyacinths for me. Mr. Kugler is supplying us with more and more newspapers. It's time to do my algebra, Kitty. Bye. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Wednesday, April the 19th, 1944. Dearest darling, what's the title of a movie with Dorit Chrysler, Ida Wust, and Harold Paulson? What could be nicer than sitting before an open window, enjoying nature, listening to the birds sing, feeling the sun on your cheeks, and holding a darling boy in your arms? I feel so peaceful and safe with his arms around me, knowing he's near and yet not having to speak. How can this be bad when it does me so much good? Oh, if only we were never disturbed again, not even by Malshi. Yours, Anne M. Frank. Friday, April the 21st, 1944. My dearest Kitty, I stayed in bed yesterday with a sore throat, but since I was already bored the very first afternoon and didn't have a fever, I got up today. My sore throat has nearly verschwunden. Yesterday, as you probably already discovered, was our Führer's 55th birthday. Today is the 18th birthday of Her Royal Highness Princess Elizabeth of York. The BBC reported that she hasn't yet been declared of age, though royal children usually are. We've been wondering which prince they'll marry this beauty off to, but can't think of the suitable candidate. Perhaps her sister, Princess Margaret Rose, can have the Crown Prince Baldwin of Belgium. Here we've been going from one disaster to the next. No sooner than the outside doors been reinforced than Van Modern rears his head again. In all likelihood, he's the one who stole the potato flour, and he's trying to pin the blame on Bep. Not surprisingly, the annex is once again in an uproar. Bep is beside herself with rage. Perhaps Mr. Kugler will finally have this shady character tailed. The appraiser from Beethovenstraat was here this morning. He offered us 400 guilders for our chest. In our opinion, the other estimates are also too low. I want to ask the magazine The Prince if they'll take one of my fairy tales under a pseudonym, of course. But up to now, all my fairy tales have been too long, so I don't think I have much of a chance. Until the next time, darling, yours, Anne M. Frank. So yeah, we'll go ahead and end this episode there. Let's go back and look over some notes, because there are some parts we do have notes upon. If I can separate pages. Okay. Early on, she says, the musings of an ugly duckling. My diary certainly wouldn't be of much use to Mr. Bolkenstein or Mr. Gerbrandi. And in the note, it says, Garrett Bolkenstein was the Minister of Education, and Pieter Gerbrandi was the Prime Minister of the Dutch government and in exile in London. And this references, it's mentioned again in a entry she wrote back in March the 29th, 1944. Which yeah, she mentions right at the start of the entry, Mr. Bolkenstein, the cabinet member, speaking on the Dutch broadcast from London, said that after the war, a collection would be made of diaries and letters dealing with the war. So she's now thinking he probably won't have any use for my diary. So that's where that kind of connects. Let's see. And the other note, she talks about her sore throat is nearly verschwunden, which it says it is the same as disappeared. So yeah. But those are the notes we have in here. We'll go ahead and put bookmark in there. So yeah, what we have now is hers and Peter's relationship is advancing farther than it ever before. So their relationship is really starting to heat up, as it were. There is more than just a friendly affection. It's, we need someone to hold, someone to stay with. Right now, it's just pecks on the cheek, and yeah. So that's where we're kind of going with that. But yeah, they kind of did the kiss each other on the cheek not far from the mouth. So it's kind of like kiss there or kiss there or whatever. And this is causing her heart to kind of go a flutter. She talks about explaining things to Peter in more detail about the female genitalia. And how she thought it was funny. He didn't consider it to have been between the legs. It's like, where did you consider it? But again, remember, they didn't always have access to nudie mags. Playboy didn't hit the scene until 55, which is 11 years from the point we're in her diary. So yeah, there were other nude photos and stuff that were probably around, but access was heavily restricted. And they definitely didn't have any access to the internet, so things couldn't just be looked up like apparently Mr. Von Maren, they think, is breaking into the building to steal stuff. You know, in the first entry after she talked about the big break-in and everything, that was we went over last episode. She's saying everybody's still tense. So yeah, you can tell how much that shook everybody up, but yeah. But our little lovebirds are getting closer and closer to one another. It's went from what was just, hey, let's just sit here, chill, look at the sky. They wouldn't even always talk that much. It was just sitting with one another. Now it's arm in arm, head on the shoulders. Sit there in quiet. It's just that constant affection you're looking for when you're young, a teenager. So yeah, their relationship's starting to warm up here. But finally, she also talks about she wonders if they'll ever get out of the annex, because it feels like the war isn't going to ever end. Even though there is a constant awareness because of the radio telling them the news, and I'm sure they can hear the bombing themselves. So yeah. But that'll be the end of this episode. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing. Ask them to cite their sources. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.